All right. Here's second try. I see you, Mom. It shows we have one viewer, so I'm guessing that's you. But Pat was saying she's in. So, Pat, if you're there, can you just type in hi or something and let us know? Darn it, back down to one viewer. I don't know if this thing that counts the viewers is reliable or what. This is only my second try. The first time didn't work out so well, so we're just going to give it a go and see how it works. Are you still there, Mom? I see you, Mom. Okay. I'm just asking Pat if she sees where to type. Okay. Well, I'm pretty much just going to get started because anybody who isn't here or it's not showing is here can always go back and just watch the video later. Basically, this video is a beginner's rock painting 101 tutorial type thing. Tips, tricks, tools, how-tos. I started this rock last night because I was just going to give everybody kind of an idea of mandalas and how to do them. And I'm going to do a few more steps on this rock later to show how it's done. But in the meantime, first I wanted to start off by explaining kind of my routine. A lot of artists have their own routine when they sit down and get started to do a rock. A lot of the reason why a lot of people do painting is to take yourself out of one world and put yourself in another world, like a world of creativity. It's calming. It's a very effective way of putting yourself in a tranquil state, especially when you need to ground yourself or calm yourself down or just have some peace. I'm going to take this down again for a second. My mom got me this for my birthday. I usually come in here and put my water and scents in that. It's an air purifying mister, and it plays music and everything. So I get that going with my favorite scents. And I start my music and get myself set in my mood. Then I sit down and I look at my rocks and I decide which rock I want to paint on. And I know this sounds crazy to some people, but a lot of people will understand. The rocks will one will pop out at you and tell you which one wants to be painted that day. Then you look at the rock, like these different kinds of rocks and the shapes and the colors, and you decide what that rock's going to be. Now, I'm a huge lover of mandalas, so oftentimes my rocks end up being mandalas. But other times they have different shapes, like this one. And a friend of mine looked at it and said they saw a turtle in it. So I'm going to turn that rock into a turtle when I feel like it. Pat. I'm not if you're on your phone and you can't see where to type, I'm not sure. There should be a little text box down at the bottom of your screen. I've never used Apple before, so I don't know. I'm kind of stumped with that one. Just look around the screen, Pat, and see what you can find. So I look for my rock, and then I decide which rock I want to use. And we're so blessed to live in this area because we have the beach and we can go look, and we just have a multitude of rocks that we can choose from. So we're lucky that way. Like this rock, you can see it, has a really beautiful color to it. So I wouldn't want to cover the whole surface of this rock, just like I didn't want to cover the whole surface of this rock. So I did most of the top of it, but you can see around the edges, the beauty of the actual rock still shows. So, that's that. Never done this before, so I'm going to trip all over myself. I know I am. So that's kind of an idea of rocks. One reason I pulled this rock out was because I wanted to show there's lots of divots and dimples in this rock, but it's a really pretty rock and it's got a great shape to it. So a lot of artists will use a product called Gesso. It's kind of a prep for rocks or wood or whatever you're going to paint, and it fills in holes and stuff like that, but it's not sold in our area, so we just use spackling, a lightweight spackler, and we just rub it on the rock with a glove, obviously, and it's really squishy and it just fills in the holes. And then you take a flat tool, and after it's all on there and the holes are filled in good, and scrape it to a flat surface and then let it dry. For me, it doesn't take more than about an hour to let it dry really well. So I set it off to the side, or I take a few rocks that look like this and I get them all spackled. And while I'm working on another rock, I let these sit off to the side and dry. And then I take a piece of sandpaper and lightly rub the top of it until it's nice and smooth. So that's how you would fix and prepare a rock. Anytime I get rocks from the beach, I bring them home and I wash them in warm, soapy water. And I take a toothbrush and I just scrub the surface to make sure you get down into the pores and get all the dirt off. A lot of people go through like a 6 or 7 step process, boiling and vinegars and all kinds of things to get their rocks ready. You really don't have to do all that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the people that do that. It's just really not necessary. I've painted a ton of rocks and I've never had to go to that many steps. So that being said, I'm going to move into some of the tools I use, or not just me, but these are kind of the basic tools that all the rock painters I've watched use. And one of the main ones that I just had to have and couldn't find in my town and had to order was dotting tools. These are used for nail art in the nail salons. And I know because I used something like this when I used to do nails. And I'm going to show you later or soon kind of how to use these. You can get them in different colors, different styles, different sizes. The balls on the ends come in different sizes, from huge to tiny. And now that rock painting has become such a big thing, you can get them in the craft stores with just the hugest balls on them. And obviously they make all different size dots. And then One of the second things I got was I went to Home Depot and bought these wood dowels and had my husband cut them down for me. And these work pretty good. But the problem with these is if you don't seal them first, the paint soaks in and eventually misshapes the ends. So you don't have a perfectly round circle anymore. My lighting right here is really bad. They get wonky. They're lopsided or whatever. And then when you're trying to do a dot, you either have to pick it up and turn it several different ways to get a perfect circle. And that just became a real pain. So although I love these, they kind of got put on the back burner when I found these. I watched a Happy Dotting video tutorial, and they produce these plastic ones. And these are really easy to clean, and they make the dots a lot better. But one of the things I noticed from switching tools is even though these are the same concept, the way they hold the paint and transfer it to the rock or whatever you're doing dots on is quite uniquely different from each other. So you have to become familiar with each tool that you're using when you switch. This has turned out to be one of my favorites because I don't know if you can see that. It's got a little, it's kind of hook shaped. And it makes it easier for the artist to see what they're doing because it's at an angle. So when you're dotting and you're looking straight down, you can see where the dot's going to go, obviously, but when it's at an angle, and this goes for paintbrushes too, it makes it easier to see where the dot's being placed. And I also use this one when you do dots on a rock. The paint tends to stand up, and you can get what looks kind of like a paint nipple. You can use this one to spread it around and make sure the paint dries flat, especially if you're going to do what's called a top dot. That's just another dot on top of a dried dot. And these are just another set of dotting tools that I found in the paint section at Michael's. I had to have them. But for those people starting out, this is what I had to do when I started out. We live in a tiny town where there's like no shopping. There's just no options of places to go to get these type things other than Home Depot for these. And I was at my wit's end, so I wanted to jump in and get started doing this stuff now. So I wandered around my house looking for things that I could use so I could get started. And you'd be surprised the things that you can find as a beginner to get started right away. Toothpicks, bobby pins, the bottom of mixing spoons that you use in the kitchen. Anything that's got a rounded bottom works too. At one point, I got into my husband's tools and I pulled out his like Allen wrenches. And I was using the butt end of this side, kind of made a cool looking star dot. And then this side had these balls on them, so I was able to make circular dots with them. I don't know if that makes it easier to see. So basically anything, you can look around and find stuff. This is a wooden cuticle pusher. And then the end, when I actually use these on my nails, I use this end to clean out from underneath my nails, but it makes a perfect little tiny dot. I use the bottom of the pen where you push it out. I've used those, and you see different pens have different sizes of those, so different dot sizes. This is an Exacto knife my husband got me for my birthday because I do tape crafts too. The bottom of this works, and this is really flat, so it works really good. And then this is It's not quite a drill set, even though it looks like it is. I can't remember what it's called. I'll put it in the description as soon as I remember. Um, these on the bottom have perfectly flat bottoms, so they're quite similar to these plastic dotting tools. So they work really well for dotting. The thing about these is they're quite heavy, and these edges are really sharp. So you got to be careful with these. The set costs like $8 at a tarp sale that we have here in town. I would much prefer these, but this also has an abundance of more sizes. So if I need more dot sizes, I can always turn to this. And inside it says work like a girl. On the outside, because this would look like boys' tools, it says mommy's dot tools. No boys. So, another really important tool to have, especially for people who want to do mandalas, is one of these. Why can't I remember the name of this tool or this thing? Anybody know the name of this? What is a compass, I think? But it just makes, perfect circles. And what you want to do is measure your rock, find the center of your rock when you're doing a mandala, and then draw your circle so you can give yourself a pattern on the rock so that you can stay on course with your dots. This is a lifesaver for beginners. Before I had one of these, my dots were too close or too far apart or too far over on one side, and I'd have to scratch the rock and start completely over. It was just a real pain. So I got one of these from the dollar store or wherever, and it just makes life a lot easier. So that's a few of your tools. A lot of people do like to use paintbrushes to do their dots. I particularly don't. But if you're going to do dotting with brushes, these are kind of the type of brushes you want to use. And some people even use the bottom of the paintbrush to do dots. At one point, I took a couple of old paintbrushes and cut the bristles off and tried making it a dotting tool that way. That didn't work out too well, but it wasn't horrible either. So there's some of the dotting tools and ideas. This goes along with the circle maker. When you make your circle and you measure your rock and you want to draw lines, or if you're drawing a picture or a pattern or whatever you're drawing on your rock, you want to grab a light pencil, because a regular pencil works too, but I found that if you touch the rock, the lead comes off on your hand or it smudges really easy. So either a regular white colored pencil, or recently I found these chalk. These are I don't want to call it lead because it's not, but the part that sticks out is a chalk. So when you write on your rock or you go to make your design, it shows up pretty good to me, maybe not you on camera. And then if you mess it up, it's really easy to wipe off or erase. And oftentimes when you use typical lead, it doesn't erase easily. So I can't find my eraser. So just imagine what I'm saying is true. I promise it is. So you draw your designs, and say we want to do a lightning strike. Then you have your design, and it makes it easier to go in with your paintbrushes or your paint pens. These are my Posca. These are my favorite go-to, always, every time paint pen. There are lots of different kinds. Posca puts out lots and lots and lots of different kinds of pens, and then there's other brands. I can tell you that this says metallic color pen, but I don't read Japanese, so that's about all I can tell you this says. I see questions. Oh, that's just you guys talking. Okay. So anyways, these chalk pencils work really good for putting your design down. And then for people who like to use paint brushes, which I do often, just trying to find my favorite one. I take a really, really fine point paintbrush to do my lines. And of course, I don't see it in here right now. That means either I misplaced it or, oh, there it is. This is such an extremely fine point, you probably can't even see it. There, maybe you can see a little bit now. But you would, I'm not doing this rock right now, but you would just do your line with this fine liner and go over your design. And with these chalk pencils, it doesn't bleed into the paint. A lot of times regular lead bleeds into the paint and you can see it. So I highly recommend staying away from regular pencils. It worked for me in the beginning, but now that I've found other options, I don't go to them anymore. So another one of my favorite tools is if you're trying to do like stars or a night sky background kind of thing, is a toothbrush. You just put a little bit of paint on there, use your fingernail and rub across it, and it just sprinkles. You want to be careful because it goes everywhere. So you just sprinkle very lightly a little bit across whatever area you're trying to do your night sky in, and it just shoots little bursts everywhere, all over. And then that's how you achieve a night sky type thing. Now, just thinking, I think I'm gonna move over into paints and explain that a little bit. I didn't want to keep you guys too long, so I'm gonna try to hurry this along. Looking for my Gatorade. Thanks, Pat. Oh, okay. Okay. So, with all that being said, I'm fortunate. I have a whole craft room, so I just have stuff everywhere. But when you want to do, like, we'll start off basic if you want to do a mandala. Beginners, I would suggest no more than 3-4 colors tops. It's kind of confusing. It looks a lot easier to do than it actually is when you're just starting out. But so I stand over. I'm trying to see. There we go. These, I have 2 boxes. I have one box here and one sitting in the chair next to me of paints. So I kind of stand over my boxes and Again, let the rock talk to me and tell me kind of what it wants to look like. If you're in tune with nature, you know that that's an actual possibility. So I stood over the box, and these were the colors that popped out to me. I pulled my colors, did my base on the bottom, and then I started thinking about what I wanted the design to look like. So I sat down and I've done my larger dots. And part of the reason why I do it this way is because I want to make sure that I'm trying to think of the right word, but just everything looks right. Everything's on point. They're all separated perfectly, and they have the right space in between each one, because when you go to lay smaller dots down and make it look more full, because the idea behind a mandala is to fill the whole space. And you don't want to be off, because if you are, then you have more paint on one side, less on the other, and it just doesn't look right. So really quick, let me grab one of my completed mandalas. I grabbed two. This one, this is one of the ones I ended up scratching because I did it wrong at first. Wish I had another light in here. And that's just kind of what I'm talking about when you fill in all the space of a rock doing a mandala. This one, I followed Miranda Patron. She's one of my favorite artists. You should look her up, Miranda Patron. She's really fun to watch. She's got a great personality, and her rocks come out beautiful. This one is called a reverse mandala. Reverse mandala, I think is what she calls it. You start with the bigger dots on the outside and get littler going in. This is kind of an advanced technique because, again, it looks a lot easier than it is. So as you can see with the details in these rocks, this is bland, boring, and just getting started. And as you see in this one, you have to have just the right amount of space, because everything you do on this side, you have to do on this side. And you don't want it to look bunched up over here with too much space over here. I hope that makes sense. Does anybody have any questions so far? I'm going to give you guys just 1 second to think about whether you have any questions or not, and type them out, and I'll be right back. Okay. Oops. Okay. Looks like we're doing pretty good then. So, next, I'm going to do some dots. There's no right or wrong way to put your dots on. Don't let anybody tell you that there's rules. There are no rules in painting. You express yourself in these paintings, whether it be on rocks, on wood, or on canvas, or whatever you're doing. It doesn't matter. It's you. It's art. It's beautiful, just like you are, and you just go with it. And no, there's others. They're just not talking. Um, Sometimes the mistakes people have made in doing these have become a method people use in making other rocks. So, hey, make a mistake. It could become something other people use. You never know. So, okay, so I stopped with the teal. And as you can see, or maybe see on this rock, yeah, it goes back and forth between like 3 and 5 right now. So, anyways, when I was talking about becoming familiar with the tools that you use as you switch back and forth between tools, um, where like on this rock, I have my circles pretty much perfect. But on this one, I made this one too big, this one too small. There's a little tail on it right there. There's just deformities that I can go back and fix. But it's because I'm not familiar with these tools yet. So I'm still learning these tools. And I don't care how long people have been doing rocks or paintings or whatever, even experts and Pablo Picasso's in the world still make mistakes. Everybody does. That's a fact. So mistakes can be fixed and turned into methods and beauty, really. So having left off with teal, I think I'm going to go with this. It's called Vivid Violet. It's a Deco Art Americana. And personally, I just use my paint lids. I do have palettes, but I'm a lazy artist. They're all dirty, especially from painting with my niece and daughter. So yeah, that's that. So stepping down, I've gone from the biggest one I wanted to start with to smaller and smaller, and now I'm going to use an even smaller one to go in between. Just trying to figure out which one I did these with. It's bigger. And paper towels. Don't laugh or die, Mom, but I go through about a half a roll of paper towels every time I paint something. I think I'm going to do something a little different than what I normally do with these, because there's an awful lot of space right here, so we're going to try something different together. One good rule of thumb is, yes, I know it was funny. Your hand shakes for whatever reason, most people do. So brace your hand on your other hand when you're going to place your dot, and it helps stop the shaking. We won't finish this rock together because, as you see, now that I've started, putting these dots on takes a long time. It's quite a process. Casper, my husband, says they would drive him absolutely insane doing all these dots. See, now I messed up and I did that one too big, but I can go back in with my paintbrush later and shrink it down a little bit. Now, when you're doing this, once in a while, you want to clean this off because the paint on the end will start to dry and it starts picking up too much paint. And then it just puts glops in your paint. I like these clear ones too because you can kind of see how much paint you're picking up. Okay. I actually left this mistake on here on purpose so I can show how easy it is to fix a simple mistake like that. This is just plain apple barrel matte black acrylic paint. I just take a small paintbrush. No. And I pick up just a tiny bit of paint. Hi, Violet, my princess Vi. And cover that black up and try to get the paint thinned out as much as I can without letting that color show through. And within just a few minutes, it dries up and the mistake's gone. Can't even tell it was there. Here's a tip that people should know about brushes that a lot of people don't know that's really important. When you're painting anything, never let the paint get up here. If the paint gets into this metal part up here, it makes your bristles split and you no longer have a perfectly formed paintbrush anymore. So never let the paint, I try not to let the paint go past half or 2/3 of the way up my brush. And one great thing about matte paint is you can watch it literally dry. So I just keep, these are our phone cards from paying our phone bills. I keep these around and literally speed up the process by about 3 times by waving the card on it. But I really don't have to because it's not affecting the area that I'm working on right now. So that's how you fix an oops. Or a more complex one like these other areas I showed. I'll have to go in with my paintbrush later. feel like my focal point isn't here because I don't have my music and stuff on. Because I can't doing a live, or you wouldn't be able to hear me right. Okay. I love this color. I think it's really pretty, very vivid. So that's those dots. And now I'm going to take a dotting tool and I'm going to go in and show you how it's called walking dots. You start with one big one and walk them down and they get smaller as you walk. I'm going to show you how to do that and show you the smaller dots. And then I'm going to pull out a piece of paper and show you how to do a dot graph for yourself. And I think that's what we'll wrap the video up with. So almost done. I usually have a fan in this room, but my kids decided to let it fall over on the floor and it burnt up the motor. So I have to get another one. It's really hot in here. Gatorade is essential. But water is even more important. Okay. So I'm going to walk around the edges of the first violet dot. Do you see those purple violet dot, the violet dots on there? Princess Vi? But really quick, like I was telling you, see how can you see? People do use them for paperweights. Dang it. There we go. See how the paint kind of standing up in the middle? Oh, come back on. Standing up in the middle of the dots. That's what I was saying. You want the paint to lay flat, especially if you're going to do top dots. So that's where this tool comes in. And you just kind of move the paint around and help flatten it out. Realistically, this should have been done a little faster or a little sooner because the paint's already trying to dry. But again, there are no rules. If I mess something up, I can go back and fix it. Okay. So now we're going to take a very fine ball. Because even with one size, you can make different size dots with it. And I'll show you what I mean. This one is called Inka Gold Folk Art Metallic. Okay, so this is walking. You put one size down and then don't dip again. And keep just walking the dots. And the dots get smaller. I don't know if you can see that. Let's try that close up again. Aww, good. Okay, let's try to get that light to catch up. Come on, phone. This autofocus is a real pain. There we go. That is called walking. Now, it gets harder to do if you want to walk around the whole dot, the whole original dot, because you got to pick up more paint and you got to try to get the size of the dots to continue to match. So, I'll do a couple more of those and I'll save the rest for later. And another little tip, since you want all the dots to be the same size, but you started in the middle, just go ahead and dot the middle again. Just keep it the same size, and then you drop the same amount of paint off so that the rest of your dots on the side are the same size as the other side. I'll do one more. And that is walking dots. Can you see how pretty that's going to be when it's done, you guys? Still got to add a lot of more dots to it. But when it's done, I don't know if it's possible since I'm so new to YouTube. I'll see if I can add a picture, like in the comments or the description or whatever. Okay, so let me grab a piece of paper. Okay. These are kind of good to have all the time. So you should take, I'm not going to because it would take too long, but you should take every tool you have and do a chart. Like right here, you could write clear dotting tools. Then you take, most people do it in black, but I'm not most people, so let's pick a pretty color. We'll do violet again, just for Vi. So you start with your biggest one, and just do a dot on the paper. Then you go to the next biggest. And I'm sure you guys already see the pattern. Here's a good example though. When you're doing dots, you always want to leave space because when you press this down, the paint's going to squish out and you don't want it to touch the other one. Okay, following. And this is awesome because then you can look at this and go, okay, that tool is going to make this size dot perfect. And like I said earlier, don't forget, just because it makes this big of a dot doesn't mean you can't do a smaller dot with it too. All you have to do is not press down so hard. And just for example's sake, I'm going to use this same dotting tool to make a smaller dot. So that's two different dots with the same tool. Excuse me. There's the clear tools, and then these have 10 different sizes because they're double edged. So you would just do the same thing. Since these two are basically the same sizes, I just ended up getting these for free with the clear ones. So since mine are pink, I would write pink dotting tools. And let's use kiwi. That one's pretty. And I'm only going to do one side. I'll try to go from biggest to smallest again. These dotting tools pick up paint and put down paint a lot different. In fact, making a perfect circle with these is quite a bit harder than with the clear ones. And there you have the nail art dotting tools. So basically you could go all the way down the page with all your dotting tools and give yourself an idea of what each and every tool does. It's really a good idea to have one of these. So before you try to put a dot on a rock that you may mess the whole rock up with, or painting or whatever, you already know what size it's going to be before you use it. I highly recommend doing something like this. So, as far as I can think, that's about as much as I can cover for a beginner's video. I enjoyed doing it, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching. And I guess that's it. I hope you guys have a good night, and I'm sure my dad's ready for dinner, and there's lots of stuff for you guys to be doing at this time of night. So, I love you guys, since all the ones that are watching right now are my family, and I will talk to you later. Thank you guys for being my support and watching me do this. Now you can write to me in Messenger and let me know how I really did. Love you guys.